Hello Multiverse, welcome to Omniverse Gamers. My name is Damian Bazzaio. Today's video is going to dissect another dynamic encounter. We're going to call this one Neogi Oasis Defense. This is from Pirates of the Ashen Sea. It's a Westmarch at sea. In this session, we usually do like 3 or 4 people per session, but we had kind of happened to have everybody today, so we did a kind of an epic tower defense sort of game that I may or may not have overstepped a little bit. So this encounter was following the sandworm encounter, which you may have seen in the other video. They had befriended this Armadillo tribe after killing the sandworm in front of them. They were like, oh wow, now we're friends. So they found out that these Armadillo have this little oasis. It's like their sacred waters, because their natural waters are gone because this other race has taken them away. So this little oasis in the desert, that they don't really know why it exists, it's just kind of magically, there's just a water source in the middle of the desert. But they've been worshiping it and like kind of treating it like sacred for decades now. But they said that in a couple days the outworlders are going to come. Every once in a while when the full moon is above the oasis, it glows with this light, and these alien creatures come, these weird like bug creatures, which are Neogi that I used. I kind of modified some Neogi to use for this. But the Armadillo tribe says they're going to come. They come every time, and they're very fortunate that they came at this time, because in a couple days that's going to happen again. These Neogi are going to come and try to take their sacred water from them, and their tribe is like, they've been decimated. They really are down to like maybe 40-50 warriors total in their whole tribe, because they've been just getting slaughtered by this other group of owls, these owls that you'll see in another video. They were actually afraid that they weren't going to survive this next attack. So basically, I saw this map, this really cool map by Printab RPG. Their Patreon is Spellerina, that's in the down below. Go check them out. They have a lot of cool maps, and they were really gracious to let me use their map in this film. So go check them out. So yeah, you see this big Oasis map. I just thought it was really cool. I didn't know. I want to use this, and I got permission to use it. So I was like, let's see what I can do with it. And I thought, maybe what if somebody was coming to get the water, and they have to defend this? Because you can see there's a lot of egress. There's a lot of buildings for defense, but there's also not much defense. There's only like we ended up with 6 players. So they had to defend this lake with 6 players. And they had like 24 tribesmen. As you can see here, let's switch over to my side view and I'll show you exactly what. So yeah, as you can see here, I kind of stretched the map a little bit and I twisted it in Roll20 just for my, what I needed it to do. And I wanted more space and I wanted it to be huge. So the downside of this map is that we had to zoom out. It was such a big encounter that I was probably playing at 18% in Roll20, which is tiny. So that's why it's so small. And I'll make some animations to make, so you can see what's going on here. You may have seen my other encounter videos where they were all kind of successful and they all were really exciting and really great. This is an example of one that I felt while it was happening really dragged. Like I made a simple mistake, and this encounter dragged on for a long time. This was probably a 2.5 to 3 hour fight, but the players seemed to be fine with it, because there was a lot of, there's 7 players, so there's a lot of time between your turns. So there was a lot of downtime, and it was but they were really good about, like, there was all kinds of tactics going on. Each of them could control some of the armadillos, which was another mistake that I made that I fixed in the next encounter. I had them controlling armadillos, but I did not give them control over the tokens in Roll20, and that was a mistake on my part, which made the combat drag, because I had to move these little this guy here, and I should have just, in the middle of it, I should have just started assigning them. I didn't want to do ahead of time. I don't want to sit there and try to assign 28 armadillos ahead of time. It's going to be tough. But I should have just assigned them one at a time as they move them. I should just be like, here, you control them, you control them, you control them. But I didn't, and that was one of the reasons that this battle took way longer than it should have. But also, this was it's kind of our chapter ending battle, and everybody was here instead of the little groups. We had everybody. So I wanted it to be epic, and it was epic. It was just really big and long. And the only thing that they knew for sure was that they were going to come in a triangle. They knew that the people were going to come and attack in a triangle and try to get to the water. That was all that they had. So in my mind, I assumed they were going to get here, talk to the armadillos for a bit, make a couple rough plans, and then bam, we're going to have tower defense. And it was going to be crazy and wild. They, being smart players, were like, well, why don't we go in the morning? We'll go early. We'll eat. We'll meet the armadillos. We'll make this big plan. We'll make this place defensible. So I was like, yeah, okay. I know it was fair. So they had, they had maybe 10 hours to make this place defensible. So they dug trenches. They figured out how much oil they had, and you'll see these little red things along the map. Those are where they dug trenches to put flaming oil in. And then this big green line, our druid has a staff of the woodlands, sort of. Like I kind of dumbed down a staff of the woodlands. But one of its things, you can use all of its charges to create a wall of thorns. But if you do that, it makes the staff inert. He's like, well, if I do it, this might be the time to use it, because we're gonna need defense. So he was like, I did not expect him to do that and waste his whole staff on that, but he was willing to do it. And I'm like, well, it's your staff if you want to do it. So I just made him a line, the 60 feet for the wall that he was going to need, just to give him a token to move around. So they were going to have a wall of thorns at some point. They were going to have all the little trenches that they dug, and they were going to have 24 armadillos in these little segments. So they made their plans. As you can see, there's armadillos all over the place, and so we had the fighter rogues over here. Our rogue swashbuckler is up on this building. We have our ranger, who's a pretty good archer, and our artificer on top of this little building over here in the center. And then we have our Goliath barbarian down here, our barbarian in the middle here, and then we have our turtle down at the bottom. And they had a bunch of armadillos, and they figured they used it. They kind of had a good defense going on in the southwest there. So they were just doing their best for the time that they had, and all I told them was that the things were going to come out of them in a perfect triangle, an equilateral triangle. So they didn't know what that meant, where exactly. They just knew there was going to be 3 points that they were going to be coming at from. So they made their plans. Eventually, then here we go. So the moon will come. They know it's coming close because the moon is kind of getting closer and closer and closer. So the moon gets there. The Oasis starts to glow. This light beam comes from the bottom up towards the moon, and as that goes up out of their sight, these kind of shimmering like temple like triangle like claw looking things kind of like come into be, almost like they're coming. It's almost like they're being transported like Star Trek, but I didn't describe it like that. I just described them kind of coming in from this other plane. You can see them solid, but they're also not solid. They also have this weird translucency to them. And then these little bugs are coming out of them, these little Neogi, which I just took basic Neogi. I split them into 3 groups. I split them into the basic Neogi with the mind powers. Then I had one group that could use a frost power. They could freeze the water. And then I had another group that had a fire line. It was basically a lightning bolt, but it was fire. They could shoot fire straight. So my plan, what I was trying to do, was to get my frozen Neogi to the water to freeze it into these big cubes, and then the fire Neogi were going to come in and dig tunnels. So they were going to get in the tunnels. So in my mind, I was going to come and make all these ice tunnels and all this maze, and they were going to have to chase these things into the maze. That's not the way the encounter played out, because I made a mistake, a small mistake in making these Neogi come out a little too slow. I was worried that they were going to come out too fast and overwhelm the group, but I ended up, the mechanic that I literally decided on the second, the instant battle started, I decided on a certain mechanic, and I didn't want to nerf it, and I knew I was like, crap, I should have went faster, but I didn't want to nerf them. I didn't want to change that once I decided on that. I think, well, we'll just go with it, and it is what it is. So as you can see, the creatures start coming out of here, and every round, 2 more come out. I started with 3, 1 of each, and then every round, 2 more came out. What I didn't do, I should have had them move first, and then have more come out, and then move, and then more come out, and it would have come out a little faster. Which, in the beginning, I thought they were going to have no defenses. So the way I designed this, I wasn't planning on. I figured they would have trenches and oil and some kind of stuff like that. But I did not expect the wall of fire. I did not expect the artificer's cannon, which is right here. There's a lot, so they had a pretty good, and the way that they decided to set themselves up unknowingly really benefited them, because the way that I had already chosen in my mind where I was going to put my 3 people, because I didn't want to meet a game that, So there you go, boom, now these things are coming. They put the wall of thorns up. So now over here in the northeast, my guys have to go all the way around this wall. They can't climb up it. They're going to take damage. And some of them, they're not really smart. So I had a bunch of them run right into the wall and just get eaten. But the wall of thorns is a lot of damage. So they took a lot of damage. And the next one, I'd roll an intelligence check to see if this is why this guy's dying, because he's walking into this thorn. It just looks like thorns, and they're alien creatures. So I just kept rolling, and some of them knew. Obviously, if 2 of them died and the third guy got advantage on that, you just oh crap. So then, and then down in the southeast, they just started coming in. Oh, now the southeast, they didn't really have a lot of defenses. They just had the Goliath barbarian and the turtle druid, and then the barbarian is right here, and a bunch of these armadillos. So they just kind of try to do their best to keep them at bay, keep this line at bay, and they do a really good job down there without any wall defenses. Over here on the west, this group comes in, and I have my artificer and the ranger up on this building, and as these things are coming, they're taking them out with range attacks. But these little armadillo here, they eventually are going to get overwhelmed. I mean, as you can see, they just start to get, and this battle kind of goes on. I keep marching. They're kind of coming. It's basically a tower defense game, which is what I designed. It's just a tower defense game, but it took longer than I wanted it to take. But everybody seemed to be fine with it. I mean, a lot of times combat takes a long time. I'm used to fast tracking combat and making it really, really dynamic and really quick. And this was just a old school slogging. It wasn't really a slog, because there was a lot of tactics. And these guys were planning, they were moving, they were doing angles. There was a lot going on, so it wasn't like it was ever like boring and like not moving. It wasn't like we were going, oh, we got to plan this and that. They were really planning everything else. So it just took a long time, basically. But it was our epic chapter-ending combat, so you take the good with the bad, basically. But I just wanted to show you that not all combats have to be perfect. Sometimes things don't work out. Sometimes they don't seem to work out. I was like, my girlfriend was like, it took a long time for my turn, but it was fun. Everybody else was, that was epic, that was great. And I was like, well, yeah, and it's just one of those where I see it differently than. But anyway. So as you can see, the things keep coming, they keep coming, And what they don't know, they have to actually get to these things. It's almost like if you ever played the game Gauntlet Legends, there's a spawn point, and the monsters come out of the spawn point. So you have to fight the monsters. You have to fight towards the spawn points. If you don't get the spawn point, they're going to keep coming out. So eventually, in Gauntlet, you get to the spawn, you destroy the spawn, then those creatures can't come out of the spawn anymore, which was what I was going for in this encounter. They had to get to them, and they had to start dealing damage to those things, and they had to go inside and pretty much there was one Neogi inside in this little kind of semi-plane chamber that was summoning this portal, and that's how they were all coming in. So there was one Neogi inside that was living, and if they killed him, or if they killed the shell that he was trying to protect, he would take damage. And they could end that, but it took them a lot of rounds to figure that out. We went along. This was, like I said, this was a 2.5 hour, 3 hour battle in a 6 hour game. So, I mean, we played all day, and this was, they probably spent an hour planning this, and then so it was the payoff was okay, even though it was slow. The payoff was great. So yeah, the combat goes. They start to get overwhelmed over here in the west. I finally got some ice. I finally got to put some ice on the things. They were like. Because they didn't know. All they knew was they were coming for the water. The players had no idea what these bugs were doing, and I was going to use the mind control to kind of like turn them on each other, but by the time I got around to doing that, the game I already sensed that it was slogging and going slow, and I just knew that taking them over with the mind control was going to just make this combat way longer than it needed to. So I just kind of started doing mind control on the armadillos to save time. So I take an armadillo, stab the armadillo next to him, kill that armadillo. That's one less person on the board that I have to worry about. So I was kind of using the mind control instead of it against the players. I started using the mind control thing to weed out the armadillos and lessen the logistics of this battle. It just seemed to be the way to go at the time. So as you can see, over on the east, they're doing a pretty good job, up or down. They're by the time they get around the wall, our Tabaxi Rogue is like right there, ready to swashbucklers work alone. So he would just stab, sneak attack as they came around the wall. Our Fighter Rogue was kind of all over the place, up and down, going this and that, kind of covering that zone on either side of the wall. Down here in the southwest, the Turtle and the Barbarian of holding this southeastern from overwhelming them. Over in the west, not so much. They finally get in there, they kill some of the Armadillo, they finally get some ice, which was the whole crux of this encounter, was for me to bowl this ice. I think I got 2 things of ice before I was able to do it. Because that was another thing in this encounter. I thought the ice guy would come, the fire guy would come, and then the ice guy would come, the fire guy would come, but they just kept killing them. So I couldn't get... my fire guy would get to the water, and I needed the ice guy first. My ice guy would get to the water, and I already had ice. So it was just one of those things where it just... But the players, the way that the choices they made and the way that they fought made it harder for me in this encounter. Which, that's part of the fun of the game. So eventually I finally got an ice thing. I think I got 2 ice things. And then I eventually got my fire guy there. When I got the fire guy there, he dug a little hole. So then he finally dug a little fire hole, a little tunnel. He gets down in there. Now the player, that guy has total cover from all the ice, so they have to actually get in that hole to kill him. And then I was going to send more and more. It just kind of kept going. They're trying to get overwhelmed. They finally figured out what I was trying to do in getting the ice in the water. They thought I was trying to freeze it and burn it. They just knew, whatever they knew the ice was bad news. So they kind of amped up their game. They kind of started getting helping each other out over here. They did their best, and there was a big, like I said, the battle kept going, and they didn't know that they could kill the spawn points. And then finally, eventually, they realized somebody hit an area attack over here in the west. And when they did that, they realized that the portal took damage, and then they're like, "Oh, we can damage these portals." And even they were just about to get overwhelmed to the point where they couldn't deal with it anymore, and they finally took out that portal. And then down here in the south, I'm just kind of spreading out. I'm trying to, instead of like coming at them, I'm spreading out and trying to really separate the group. And I do eventually get around them. I just double move, take some shots. I eventually get around them. As I'm still digging holes up in the north here, I finally get an ice sphere down here in the south, and I get another tunnel. So then now they're like, "Oh crap! Now we got we're 2 of our fronts." And even though I didn't even, in my mind, I wanted these ice things to be huge and down all the way. I had a depth thing ready to go so they can go down into the water. It just never kind of panned out that way, but they didn't know the difference. They just thought I was trying to attack the water. So now they're like, "Oh crap, we're against it now." But, they eventually prevailed, and then they finally figured out up in the north here they finally got that portal down. And once they did that, they all kind of came to the south and just, ended up winning. They only lost, I think they lost 6 Armadillo, which isn't bad. That's not bad, because they could have lost, they had 24 Armadillo, so they could have lost a lot more Armadillo. And that was mostly because the mind thing was making them attack each other. So they did a pretty good job with this encounter. And this, like I said, this encounter was crazy epic, and it was our chapter-ending thing. And now they were third levels. They weren't that powerful. So this was just kind of like it's just how I ran a tower defense encounter that maybe went a little bit too long, but I could have done things that made it quicker. And actually, my next defense video, I'm gonna fix all the mistakes I made in this one and show you how that next tower defense that I did in the same game, I did another one because I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm like, no, we're gonna do this one right. And that one went a lot faster and a lot smoother because of the things that I learned from this one. Not that I haven't done tower defense before, it's just I haven't done it in Roll20, so it was a whole new medium and whole new. I'm used to just grabbing minis and moving them and blah blah blah. When it's Roll20, so I got to move this. Which one do you want me to move? At a table, they can just point. Move this one, this one, this one. Or you move them now. But in Roll20, you got to set it up. And I didn't foresee the issues that ended up happening. But either way, it was a big epic encounter that ended out really cool. The Neogi, like I said, I just kind of modified him a little bit. I didn't end up using the mind control against the players, but I did use it to help the encounter quicken at the end, which I say quick, but it was, like I said, it was a good 2.5 hours. But that's an example of an encounter that's not perfect, but, you work with what you got. Sometimes it flops. Sometimes you think it's a flop, and the players are like, I thought that was fine. It was just long. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. It was our chapter-ending salvo, and now they're all fourth level. So it was. So I hope that was interesting, and you see how that worked out and how I did that tower defense. We are Omniverse Gamers. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. Any questions, comments, put them in the down below. I'll happily answer them. So I hope to see you soon, and keep on gaming.